This is the introduction to harmonic dictation, steps, concepts, and a sample exercise. What is harmonic dictation? The goal is to write down the bass, soprano, in Roman numerals with figured bass that you hear. The benefits of this exercise include transcription, which is writing down music so that others can enjoy it, and musical memory, which is increasing your recall of musical events. First of all, we're going to start a dictation. Get oriented to the key, meter, the mode. Write down as much as you can. Have a grid of beats and an open grand staff. Next, listen to, write down a bass line. Sing it back. Sing back short chunks and spot check difficult pitches by singing down or up the scale to Do or scale degree 1. For instance, if we're in this key, if a bass note is on here, you would sing down da 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 dum. So fa mi re do. So that means we're on so. The same as before, but do this with a soprano. Sing it back, break it down, and spot check. This can be challenging to people who sang as altos in choirs. You need to listen for a higher line than you are used to singing. So if you hear a chord like this is the soprano, but don't be taken by the alto. You need to listen for the soprano and the bass. Next, finishing a dictation. Use your theory knowledge to spell harmonies that would make sense with the given outer voices. If these outer voices are wrong, your dictation is already fatally flawed, and all subsequent steps will not help. Eliminate impossible or unlikely choices. So, put another way, you need to make sure that your outer voices are correct. Do a targeted listening for the actual harmonies. Try to pick out solfege syllables that lean toward one or another harmony, or listen for chord types. Musicians that improvise regularly tend to do better at this step than other musicians. Pay close attention to the possible chord choices given by your teacher. Although this is challenging, try to spot check by singing a bass note, then arpeggiating the chord above it. So if we have, for instance, 1 4 5 1, there's 1, there's 4, there's 5, there's 1. So you would sing the first bass note, da 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 dum, next one, da 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 dum, and so on. Ask your teacher to play the dictation very slowly so you can focus better on a particular chord. And try to limit yourself to 4 hearings, spaced 1 to 2 minutes apart, and to 1 sing back each of the bass and the soprano voice. Getting started. Theoretical knowledge you will need to do harmonic dictation. First, we have rule of the octave. The rule of the octave is the possible harmonizations of a major scale in the bass. What's its purpose? It tells you possible chords if a particular solfege occurs in the bass. So look at the chart below. If Do is in the bass, we're going to have 1. If Re is in the bass, we could have 7 diminished 6 or 5 4 3. If Mi is in the bass, it's going to be 1 6. Okay. If Fa is in the bass, there are a variety of choices. Here's 4. Okay. If So is in the bass, 5 is most common, but notice there are 3 flavors of 5, 5, 5 7, and 5 8-7. Okay. La in the bass could be 6. T in the bass could be 5 6 5, and then 1 in the bass will again be, or Do in the bass will be 1. Here are some common normative progressions. The purpose here is to use the tendencies given below to determine if a chord progression you hear is likely or unlikely. So for instance, if we're starting on a 1 chord, we could go to anything, 4, 5, 7, 2, okay? But if we're on a 2 chord, we're going to go to 5 or 2, 5, 7, okay? If we're on a 3 chord, assume we won't use this chord except in minor mode. Expect 1, 6 for now, okay? Going down in the table, 4 will tend to go to 2, 5 or 5, 7. 5 or 5, 7 will tend to go to 1. 5 can go to 1, 6, or 5 or 5, 7 can go to 6 in a deceptive cadence. 6 will tend to go to 4 or to 2. Don't expect 5, that's pretty unusual. 7 diminished 6 or 7 diminished 7 will go to some form of 1 or 1, 6. So those are the common patterns, and you should expect these as you're doing a dictation. Getting familiar with common progressions. Here is a sample vocal warm-up routine. So you often start off with singing. Think of each chord in the key so that you can listen to it next. Okay. You arpeggiate each chord up and down. So for instance, the 1 chord would be do, mi, so, mi, do. Then you breathe before the next chord. Okay. And then after going through these possibilities, you're going to change the mode to minor just to practice and make more complex substitutions. So instead of doing 5, you could then do 5, 7, which is harder, and then do 7 diminished 7, which is even harder. Okay, so think of going easy to difficult. Here are some common progressions. So we have 1, 5, 1, so that would be do, mi, so, mi, do. Now for the 5 chord, it's so, ti, re. I could go down to it in my voice or up to it. I'm going to go down here. So, ti, re, ti, so. And then back to 1. Do, mi, so, mi, do. So that's how you would do that. You could do 1, 5, 7, 1. You could do 1, 2, 5, 7, 1. Now you could add a tonic expansion, 1, 5, 6, 5, 1, then going to the cadence 5, 7, 1. And here are other possibilities. Especially getting the 4 chord is an important thing to do. Okay, so these are all things that you could practice. Okay, let's go on to common tonic expansions. Each of these is of the format tonic to dominant to tonic. So by tonic we mean 1 or 1, 6. By dominant we mean usually 5, 7 in some inversion, okay? And then tonic is 1 or 1, 6. And that tonic does not end with a cadence. So these lack the descending 5th root motion of an authentic cadence, which would be like this. So instead of doing so to do like that, you would have ti to do, or re to do, or fa to mi. Okay. And what we also don't have is a concluding root position 1 chord, which is what you would have in a cadence. Listen to these also in the parallel minor and note what is changed or stayed the same. Each of these usually occurs in the beginning of a phrase. So I will play through a couple of samples. The first one I'll play through is 1, 5, 6, 5, 1. So there's 1, 5, 6, 5, back to 1. Here it is in the parallel minor. So the 1 chords are minor, but the 5 chord remains dominant 7th. Okay, so you get the idea of what these tonic expansions would be. And all of these could be sung vocally. So the 1 chord would be do, mi, so, mi, do, 5, 6, 5. Ti, re, fa, so, fa, re, ti, back to 1. Do, mi, so, mi, do. And if you can sing these correctly, you can then listen to them with greater accuracy. So here are all of them. Let's move on to common cadence patterns. these all share an arrival on a root position 5, which would be a half cadence, or a motion from a root position 5 or a root position 5/7 to a root position 1. Be able to sing all the bass lines involved and identify the cadence type. For instance, PAC, it could also be a half cadence, or an IAC if the soprano ends not on 1 but ends on 3 or 5. So these cadence patterns will occur at the end of a phrase. So here are a bunch of them. Okay, so if we're in C major, so there's our do. You would first find fa. So the 4 chord would be fa, la, do, la, fa. For the 5 chord, I would go down in my range. So, ti, re, ti, so, back to 1. Do, mi, so, mi, do. And you could practice all of these patterns. There is one more pattern, letter F. So all of these can be worked on. Okay, so here is a demonstration of how you would do a harmonic dictation. Here's a relatively easy example demonstrated. So I'll only talk here about a couple of the first few steps, and then we'll demonstrate it, and then talk about how you would go through and do it. So step 1, as mentioned before, you would identify the tonic, okay, the mode, which would be major or minor, the meter, and the excerpt length. In class, I tend to give these as warm-ups. Okay, so if that's your opening triad, that would be do. This is in major mode. It's happy, not sad. Okay, the meter here will be common time, so you would use conducting to figure that out if you weren't given the meter. Okay, and then the excerpt length here will be 2 bars of 4/4 time. Okay, step 2 is important. Follow your teacher's particular hints for an exercise. This particular one starts with a 3-chord tonic expansion of the format tonic, dominant, tonic. This is what it sounds like. Then it moves to a 3-chord cadence having a predominant, dominant, and then a tonic. So it sounds like this. This is the sort of dictation I would expect a student to master by the end of the 2nd semester in oral skills, so the end of your freshman year. In step 3, remind yourself of possible chords, writing them down, and spelling each of them in the given key. Step 4, sing back the bass line and notate it. So you're working bottom to top. Step 5, sing back the soprano and notate it. This and the last step can be swapped. So many students, if you are stronger at hearing the soprano, you may want to do that before the bass line. But it really depends on what your preference is. Step 6 is identify obvious chords at the beginning and end. Step 7 is to identify possible remaining chords. These are the harder chords to figure out. You would use the rule of the octave chart, which you would then commit to memory. Step 8, you will listen for the remaining chords that have more than one potential analysis. So for instance, if you have fa on the bass, it could be 4, it could be 2/6, it could be 2/6/5. You're going to have to make choices based on what you hear. Do you hear do in the chord? Do you hear do and re? Do you hear only re? That's going to affect your analysis. And finally, step 9, spot check and double check your analysis for any spelling errors. Let's get started here. So here is the grand staff. Notice the 3-chord tonic expansion at the beginning, and then predominant lasts for 1 beat, dominant lasts for 2 beats, and then the end tonic lasts for 2 beats as well. Okay, so let's listen to the entire dictation, okay? So I'll give you 4 empty beats, and then you can start working on it. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, I'm assuming that you already paused the video, okay, to work on that. Now we're going to write in the bass line. So you'll notice what we did so far is do, ti, do at the beginning. But then there's some stuff that needs to be spot checked, and the ending do is pretty obvious. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to pause on the 4th bass note. We're going to then sing down the scale. Da 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 dum. So that means that the predominant we stopped on fa. Okay, so then the line would be do, ti, do, fa. What note? Oh, it's up a step from fa, so, jumping down the octave to so, then to do. So let's see what the effect of that is. Okay, so now you see the completed bass line. Do, ti, do, fa, so, jumping down the octave, so, do. Okay, and now we have figured out a couple of things in the soprano. So, mi, fa, mi. Not quite sure about this. There's a falling leap. And then the note right here at the beginning of measure 2 is sustained. Okay? Don't be thrown off by the alto moving. Okay? So listen to it again. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, so let's figure out what happened in the soprano. So mi, fa, mi, what is that? So beat 4 here was down a step from mi, so it would be re. Re went down to here. Now that pitch wants to go back up to do, da, dum, so we must have gone to ti. So in the soprano it goes mi, fa, mi, re, ti, do. So let's check that. Okay, so now we deal with potential chord choices. The 1 chords are pretty clear. Let's take a look at the possibilities in measure 1, beat 2. See how T is in the bass, Fa is in the soprano. Our available chord choices are 5-6 and 5-6-5. Why is it not 5-6? Well, you need to spell a 5-6 chord quickly, and then once you have done that, you then need to look at the actual notes you've written and see if they're consistent. So 5-6 does not work, but 5-6-5 does. So 5-6, 5 chord would be A, C, E, but look at the soprano on top, it's G. So it has to be 5-6-5. And so that same kind of reasoning, you're going to attempt to eliminate chord choices that don't fit the outer voices. Okay. All right, now here's a complete harmonic analysis. This is what the original looked like. So how did we make some of these decisions? Well, in some cases we had to listen to inner voices. So listen. Okay. In the case of measure 1 beat 4, we had Fa on the bass and Re on top. Okay, so it could be 2-6-5 or it could be 2-6. So we need to listen. Does that chord have Do in it? Making a chopstick sound. No, it did not. So it's just 2-6 going to 5. Now in measure 2, it starts off with a tri. There's no Fa in this chord yet. The Fa happens on beat 2, and then we go to 1. So you're going to have to spot check individual chords and ask your teacher to play it in half time, basically half as fast, so you can focus in on all the different voices and scale degrees involved. And then after this, it's a good exercise to convert these dictations into the parallel minor. So minor 1, 5, 6, 5, minor 1, 2 to diminished 6 is now a diminished triad, but 5 is still major. And now the leading tone, C, has to be raised to C sharp. Here are some ideas for future progress. Receive your teacher's feedback and try to identify points that need improvement. Discuss any ideas for improving with your teacher. Apply transcription activities to your instrument. And then the more often you work at this, the better you will get.